Hello, my 7th grade scholars. Welcome to our lesson on writing a Precis for The Night the Bed Fell by James Thurber. So we've already read it, we've already reviewed it, we're familiar with the text. One of the most important things to do before writing a Precis is to know and be familiar with the text that you're writing about. So you need to have read it, you need to understand it. If you haven't, stop this video now and go back and watch my review video, okay? Pause it if you need to. Stop it if you need to. You need to know and be familiar with the text before you start writing about it. That's just how it is. So let's move forward. A précis, remember, it's 4 sentences. A précis is 4 sentences, which those 4 sentences cover a concise summary of essential points, statements, or facts. And each sentence is a very specific purpose. So sentence 1 has 6 things. Sentence 1 has 6 things: the genre, the title, the date, the author, the credential, and the thesis. Now remember, the thesis is the major claim that the author is trying to make. So you're just filling in this sentence, filling in where these little brackets are. So you need to know the genre and all these things here, and then you just fill in the blanks. So in the, and then what's the genre? We already said that it's an autobiographical short story. An autobiographical short story. In the autobiographical short story, The Night the Bed Fell, 1933, and you can write by, but it's you could write the word by, or you could just state the author's name, James Thurber, and then his credentials are that he's an author and a cartoonist, and then the thesis, the major claim that he's trying to make. And we're going to look at that as I have it all written out here for you instead of me saying it. So in the autobiographical short story, The Night the Bed Fell, 1933, James Thurber, author and cartoonist, writes that, and here's his major claim: misunderstandings and self-absorbed thinking causes fear to increase, which leads to hilarious outcomes. That gets kind of fancy with some words there. Really, we're just trying to say that he's making a claim that there was a misunderstanding, something that wasn't really happening, and then there was something funny that happened. And so this is a little bit more of an academic way of saying that. These people who already had fears, that got increased. And then there's this funny story he has about his family because of it. Okay, I'm going to have this on my website, so you can take a look at this if you need a review. So sentence 2. Sentence 2 will have supporting proofs. So you have to use the text to say, hey, this is how I support what this thesis is saying. It's how we've been writing all year. So sentence 2, you start with the author. We know that's Thurber. You can say the last name. You could call him Mr. Thurber. You could say James Thurber. If you actually know the author, you might call them by their first name. So Thurber supports this point by, and then you could choose your verb, and then proof. Oh, that's 1. There should be proof 1, 2, and then 3, right? Let's fix this right now. So there should be 3 proofs. Does it always have to have 3 proofs? No, the answer is no, not always. 3 is a great magical number. I've told you that before. Basically, you're trying to give enough information to show that this is supporting the thesis. So if we take a look at what was written, I have 3 different options for you. So one option could be, Thurber supports this point by sharing information. So the verb I chose was sharing information about his unique family members, starting with his mother's disapproval of his father's sleeping arrangement, to his 3 paranoid aunts, and finally to his cousin's fear of suffocating in his sleep. So I have 3 examples. There are more than 3 examples, so you could do more. We're trying to keep it concise, though. So Thurber supports this point by doing what? He shares information about these family members, and then I named 3 of the family members and what was kind of maybe wacky about them. And that's supporting this thesis back here of this misunderstanding leading to hilarious outcomes. Okay, so we had option 1. Let's take a look at option 2. So option 2, we say the author's name again. Thurber supports this point by relating the story of his crazy family and their shouts of fear and apprehension. So this is in the middle of the chaos that was happening in the night when a sound confuses everyone into thinking terrible things were happening all around them. which ends up being funny. Again, supporting the thesis. Option 3, let's see if I can make this work. Option 3. Thurber, again, stating the author's name, supports this point by narrating a story of the night a loud sound awoke his mother, brother, and cousin, and several others in the home, which caused them to be confused, and they did and thought unexpected things. So again, supporting the thesis. Any of these 3 would be appropriate and work. They're not all perfectly set up with point 1, point 2, point 3. These are the 3 proofs. The first one does have 3 exactly. The third one mentions 3 characters at least. Just give enough information that it shows you know the text and you're supporting the thesis. Okay. Third sentence, the author's purpose. Now remember, the author's purpose is the overall reason for the text, the why. Why is this author writing this? So you start with the author's last name. The author's purpose is to, or the author's last name, Thurber's purpose is to, and then what's the author's purpose? Remember, there are 5 author's purposes. The first one, so remember the way we remember them is pined, P-I-N-E-D. Persuade, some of you are going to know this off the top of your head. Inform, N would be narrate, E would be entertain, and D would be describe, D-E-S-C-R-I-B-E, describe. So these are the 5 author's purposes, the overall reason for the text. And then you'd want to include the why. So in order to, or so that, or because you could. And then the intended reason for this claim. So let's take a quick look. Let's see, what do I even have here? Do I even remember? So Mr. Thurber, I decided to call him Mr. So fancy. Mr. Thurber's purpose is to entertain. It's just a funny story about his family. It's nonfiction, but it's a funny story. So the Mr. Thurber's purpose is to entertain so that the reader might have a good laugh from his family's nonsensical night. It's very basic. His purpose, his intended reason is just to give you a good laugh. And that we can enjoy this funny, wacky, absurd thing that happened to his family. So this sentence is a little bit shorter than the others. The reason isn't very long. So to have a good laugh from his family's nonsensical night. All right, here's the very last sentence, audience and tone. So we're going to talk about who is he writing to, who's this, or who is the author, male or female, writing to, who do they want to hear this, and then also what is the tone or sometimes the mood throughout the text. So you start with the pronoun, you could say he, because it's James Thurber, creates a mood of, and then what's the feeling throughout the text for an audience of, and then what's the intended audience. So you might have already thought of some things here. He creates a mood of comical absurdity. It's kind of crazy. They do weird things. He talks about his 3 aunts and his grandfather who are crazy or do crazy things, and then they don't even play a part in the actual story, the thing that happened that night. They weren't there. So it's funny and it's absurd. So comical absurdity for an audience. And who's the audience? Anybody who reads it, really. So how do we get a little bit more specific? Well, an audience that appreciates the humanity of eccentric family members. You could have a different answer than that, and that would be okay. Sometimes you might come up with a different audience that would cover a general group of people. I like this one because, yes, his family is a little bit wacky. They are absurd. They're eccentric. And so to say, we appreciate them. It gave us a good laugh. It made us happy. A little bit of comic relief. So to appreciate the humanity that we're all kind of crazy sometimes, especially we can relate to that moment of, I just woke up in the middle of the night and I didn't know what was going on. So the father waking up and thinking that the house is on fire and he says, I'm coming. And then the mother thinking that the headboard had fallen onto the father and let's save your poor father, he's dying. It's funny. And we can all relate to comical moments and the crazy that we feel when we wake up in the middle of the night and we're still kind of groggy with sleep. So the audience, it could be almost anybody, really, anyone who wanted to read it, but the ones who will especially enjoy it are those who appreciate the human nature, humanity of eccentric family members. So here we've got it all written out, and this is what your précis would look like. We broke it down into four sentences, all separated, but when you put it all together, we have, in the autobiographical short story, The Night the Bed Fell, 1933, James Thurber, author and cartoonist, writes that misunderstandings and self-absorbed thinking causes fears to increase, fears, what did we say before? Which increase with oh, no, not which. Somebody's seen it already. Causes fears to, I guess that's right, to increase. All right, let's go back. Writes that misunderstandings and self-absorbed thinking causes fears to increase, which leads to hilarious outcomes. Thurber supports this point by relating the story of his crazy family and their shouts of fear and apprehension in the night when a sound confuses everyone into thinking terrible things were happening all around them. I think this was option 2. Just picked one. Mr. Thurber's purpose is to entertain so that the reader might have a good laugh from his family's nonsensical night. He creates a mood of comical absurdity for an audience that appreciates the humanity of eccentric family members. So there you have it. That's your précis for The Night the Bed Fell. You have a quiz that will cover most of this information. I'm going to give you another reminder. One of the most important things that you need to do before you write a précis is read the text. Understand the text, review the text, talk to a friend about the text, email me about the text. You need to understand it before you start writing the 4 sentences. That's going to be the best way to have a solid précis. All right, you guys are awesome. Take that quiz and I will see you next time.